Swazdolateno. Time to learn about IPS and the elements. IPS stands for Impact, Puncture and Slash. Almost all weapons have these damage types on them. Impact as a damage type is good against shields but not good against anything else. Its status proc staggers enemies and can open them up to finishers. If you kill enemies with Impact, the bodies get yeeted across the room you're in. Entertaining but not great. Puncture isn't bad as a damage type. Better than Impact at least. Its status proc makes enemies do up to 75% less damage, which doesn't really matter, cause the enemy is either dead or can one-shot you at higher levels. Onto our boy Slash. This is one of the big three. Viral, Slash and Heat. Slash as a damage type is okay. It cuts enemies into pieces when you kill them, which is good for necros if you are trying to farm. Its status proc is Bleed, which bypasses armor. It's pretty much true damage. Okay, element time. We have 4 basic elements: Cold, Heat, Electric and Toxin. And 6 combined elements: Blast, Corrosive, Gas, Magnetic, Radiation, and Viral. Let's start with the 4 basic elements. Okay, so Cold as a damage type is pretty bad, nothing more to say about it. The benefits aren't good enough. The status is okay, but there is better slows. Oh boy, up next is Heat. This is the best of the basic elements. It's generally good against Infested and Grineer. It does damage over time and strips armor over 2 seconds up to 50%. It's one of the greats. Not much to say about Electric. It isn't great or bad. It does AoE damage over time and stuns enemies. MOAs get wrecked by Electric though, so you can use it on Corpus planets if you want. Toxin is great but only against Corpus. It bypasses shields and they all have high shields, low HP. The robots like the MOAs and drones resist Toxin and it still wrecks them, cause you ignore the shield. With that, let's move on to the combined elements. Now this chart may be confusing at first, but you can kind of ignore it, because you can type an element or combined element into your search bar in your mod selection, which makes it easier. Okay, so Blast is one of the worst elements. Its status lowers accuracy by up to 75%, but it isn't good enough to use. Corrosive is decent, it strips armor up to 80% at 10 procs. So you can use it on Grineer if you're having a hard time in the star chart. Gas isn't very good. Some Infested are weak to it, but you're better off just using Heat. It's basically an AoE version of Toxin, but it doesn't bypass shields. Magnetic technically isn't bad, but it just does increased damage to shields with its status proc up to 325%. The first proc makes you do 100% more damage to shields. But Toxin exists. Radiation is a pretty good element. Most of the big boy bosses in the game are weak to it, and it isn't bad against Grineer. Its status proc is Confusion, it makes enemies attack each other. And last but certainly not least, Viral. One of the big three. One of the best elements. It's pretty much neutral damage against most of the factions, and its proc increases your damage to HP by 100% on the first proc up to 325% on 10 procs. High level enemies too tanky for you. So you want to do big dick damage? Okay. I'll tell you how. Viral Slash is one of the big three. Viral makes your slash procs do more damage. Slash bypasses armor. If your weapon doesn't have slash damage on it, you can do Viral Heat. Viral scales up the damage of Heat procs, and Heat lowers armor by 50%. You can also do Corrosive Heat for very high level enemies. It strips 90% of the enemy's armor together, letting the Heat procs do better damage. That's the end of the video. Go kill stuff, you degenerate murder machine.